And Sadhguru said, most human beings are not suffering life. They are just suffering their memory and their imagination. So much of what we think will go wrong is based on a memory, or it's based on us projecting into the future a fear that we have that things could go wrong. I wanted to share with you a few thoughts that I had about one of the biggest reasons that we don't take quantum leaps. One of the biggest reasons that we do not take quantum leaps is not because we don't have the inspiration, not because we don't have the ideas. Sometimes we actually even believe in ourselves. Sometimes we're being, for the most part, a person who would have what it is that we want. But there's a big, big reason that gets in the way of us achieving the life that we want. And that is the F word. Fear. So many of us are afraid. We're afraid. There's so many reasons that we have fear. Now, listen, I'm not talking about like genuine fear where it's like, okay, there's a real reason for me to be afraid for my life because I could be attacked, because I am in a dangerous situation. No, for most people, that fear is imagined. I actually just shared a quote on my Instagram profile. If you're not following me already, I invite you to follow me. My Instagram is sandra.chuma. And it's a quote that I love from the Indian spiritual teacher Sadhguru. And Sadhguru said, most human beings are not suffering life. They are just suffering their memory and their imagination. Most human beings are not suffering life. They are just suffering their memory and their imagination. So much of what we think will go wrong is based on a memory, or it's based on us projecting into the future a fear that we have that things could go wrong. And some of the reasons that we have fear is we're afraid to fail. We're afraid of failure. We've been taught that failure is a bad thing. We're afraid of being rejected. What if people laugh at us? What if people think we're stupid? What if we mess up? We're afraid of being overwhelmed sometimes because we imagine that, oh my gosh, if I create this business that I want or this life that I want, that it might cause me so much stress. Or even, especially like with money, that, oh my gosh, if I have all this money, then people might treat me differently, or it might be a lot of work for me to manage the money. And so overwhelm, the fear of being overwhelmed is another reason that people stay in their comfort zones. We're afraid because we doubt ourselves. We doubt that we have the ability, the capability. We doubt our worthiness to step into our goals and into our dreams. And what I want to share with you is that, as Sadhguru said, all of these fears are things that are in our memory or in our imagination. So many of the things that we imagine, so many of the fears that we have never actually come to pass. And so many of the fears that we have are because we don't believe in ourselves and our own ability to respond, our own ability to handle, our own ability to be resilient. And yet we are resilient, we are brave, we are courageous beyond measure when we allow ourselves to step into the fear. You know, it's so easy to look at people who are achieving things in the world. It's so easy to look at people who put themselves out there. It's so easy to look at people who've achieved great things and think that somehow they're special. They're fearless. They don't feel any fear, that they're not standing there doing a presentation, doing a live with their knees knocking. And yet, the reality is those people who achieve their dreams, those people who achieve quantum leaps, were afraid. They had the same fears of failure, of rejection, of doubting themselves. But they made a decision that it was more important to them to get past the fear. They decided their dream was worth more to them than holding on to the fear. Their dream was worth more to them than it was to stay in the comfort zone. Because one of the things that we all know is that the comfort zone is comfortable. That's exactly why so many of us stay there. But the thing with the comfort zone is that's where your dreams go to die. If you're staying in the comfort zone, that means you're never doing anything that pushes your boundaries. You're never doing anything that stretches you. You're always staying in the confines of what feels safe. But a quantum leap is all about jumping into the unknown. That's how you quantum leap, is by jumping into the unknown. So how do you do that? How do you step past the fear? How do you make sure that, regardless of whether you're afraid of being rejected, whether you're afraid of what other people will think, whether you're afraid of, am I good enough? Is this going to work? How do you keep going? And I want to give you 5 simple steps that you can take when it comes to fear and overcoming fear, getting past fear. I'm not a believer. I don't believe in that no fear. There was a time where you'd see lots of t-shirts, lots of car bumper stickers that said no fear. And I call BS on that. Everybody has fear. Our fears might be different and our fears might look different, but everybody at some point, somewhere in their life, has a fear. But it's not about being fearless. It's about fearing less. And so how do we do that? So the first step, number 1, is identify the fear. What am I afraid of? Because a lot of the time, going back to that quote that I shared from Sadhguru, a lot of the time it's all in our imagination. And you know how it's so easy in your imagination for one thought to feed another thought, which becomes another thought. And before you know it, oh my gosh, it's world disaster. Because that's how our brains work. Our brains are geared to catastrophize. Because when it can warn you of all the possibilities, all the things that can go wrong, which is something that I talked about in the audios, then it can keep you safe. Because your brain is there to keep you safe. Its job 1 is to keep you safe. And so part of that is it creating in your imagination fear. Fear about this could happen or that could happen or what will other people think. And so the very first step is identify the fear. What is it that I'm afraid of? Because that's almost like in the dark. If you've ever been left alone, especially after you watched a scary movie, then in the dark, everything is scary. Everything, even if it's a coffee table, it looks scary. It looks like a monster of some sort. But the moment you turn on the light, it's not so scary. Oh, it's just a coffee table. Oh, there's just the cat or the dog or whatever it is. And so what I want to invite you to do as your very first step is ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Because that's almost like taking a flashlight and turning it on and turning it onto the fear. Oh, this is what I'm afraid of. Okay. Because from that place of knowing what you're afraid of, you can then go to the next step, which is asking yourself, is this true? In the 4 questions to ask yourself from Byron Katie. I love those 4 questions. I truly do, because it's so simple, right? 4 simple questions, and yet they have such power. Because if you can ask yourself, okay, I have this fear. I have this fear that I'm going to fail. If you can ask yourself, is it true that I'm going to fail? Do I know that? Do I know that I'm going to fail? Maybe not. Then the second question is, do I absolutely know for sure that this is true? So the first question, is it true that I could fail? Yes, maybe you might answer yes. But the second time you ask yourself that question, do I know for sure? Am I absolutely sure about this? Would this pass an evidence test in court? Would there be an exhibit A and an exhibit B that says, yep, this is going to happen? Then the third question to ask yourself is, how does it make me feel to hold this belief, to hold this fear that I'm going to fail? And I'm going to guess it probably doesn't feel good. And especially when you hold it up against the big dreams that you have, the goals that you have, the intentions that you've set, the fact that you are worthy of creating an extraordinary life. The two can't coexist. They're not coherent. Your feelings are your true north. How does it make you feel? If it doesn't make you feel good, then that's not the right place for you to be. And so the third thing to ask yourself when it comes to those three questions is, how does it make me feel? And then the fourth question to ask yourself is, what do I want to feel instead? And it's from that place of what do I want to feel instead that you can take the second step that I'm suggesting to you when it comes to dealing with fear. And that second step is creating a plan. What's the plan? What's the thing that I can do next? Action creates momentum. It creates something that's called success motivation. The more you do, the more you want to do. The more you start to convince your mind, you're showing your mind the evidence of what is possible. You're showing your mind that I actually can do stuff. But sometimes when we're creating our plans, we're creating these monster plans of like, we want to have the A to Z, like from soup to nuts, as the expression goes. But sometimes all you need is just, what do I need to put in the soup? That's all you don't have to think about what's going to be for dessert. What are we going to have for the nuts? Let's just focus on step one, what's going to be in the soup. And so if you can just focus on what's important now, win, W-I-N, keep reminding yourself of that. What's important now? What can I do today in this moment? What's the one thing? Don't even overwhelm yourself with like 10 things, action items, just one thing. One thing that allows you to feel successful, that allows you to start to build that momentum. And so step one is identify the fear. Step two is create a plan. Even if you don't know all of the steps from A to Z, what can you do right now? What are some action items that you can take right now? And then the third thing is use time as your friend. Use time as your friend in terms of setting little bite-sized chunks of time to work on things. Because sometimes we're waiting for the big, like when I have a whole weekend or when I can spend a whole day working on my project or whatever it is that I want. But can you take 10 minutes today to work on whatever it is you're dreaming? 10, not an hour, just 10 minutes. I know we all have 10 minutes. Instead of scrolling social media, can you spend 10 minutes today working on whatever it is that your dream is? Because if you think about it, 10 minutes today, 10 minutes tomorrow, by the end of the week, you've spent more than an hour working on whatever it is your dream is. By the end of the month, you spent at least 4 or 5 hours working on whatever your dream is. Think about that as momentum. And so use time as your friend, tiny pockets of time. Don't overwhelm yourself with, oh my gosh, I need to do all of the things. 10 minutes in a day to work on your dream. And then being. What are the habits that you need to start to cultivate? What are the habits that you now need to create that would make you be a person who will have success? What are the things that you need to do on the daily? Again, not overwhelming yourself with, let me change my eating and let me exercise and what's one thing? What's one habit that you can just dial in and focus on? Because again, it'll create that success motivation. And so thinking about, these are my goals, these are my dreams, this is who I need to be, and then what are the habits I need to create? So when it comes to your being, which also includes your values, is looking at, great, these are the ways of being. Do I need to be disciplined? Do I need to be courageous? Do I need to respect time? Do I need to be in self-integrity? What are all those ways of being that would best serve you in moving you forward? And then looking at your values. What are the values that are aligned with the big goals, the big dreams that I have? And then for each of those, thinking about what are the habits? What are the observable behaviors that I need to take for me to be able to create my quantum leap, to make this the best year yet for myself? And then the fifth thing, so that's number 4, is create new habits. The fifth thing, change your environment. Change your environment. Sometimes, and your environment is not just your physical environment, but that is an important part too. Because when you tidy up your home, when you organize things, when things feel clean and tidy, you're more likely, you feel more energized to be able to take action. There's a reason Marie Kondo was so successful, because so many of us, our environments aren't conducive to us being the person who would create the life that we want. And so starting with, is my environment beautiful? Well, and this doesn't mean you've got to do a full-scale remodel of your house, but in your little corner, you might not have like a whole apartment or a whole house that you can do this in, but in your little space, your room, whatever it is that you have, can you make it beautiful? Can you make it a space that you can call your sanctuary? Can you make it a space where it feels inviting for you to work, where it feels inviting for you to take action, where it feels inviting for you to step into the identity of being that person who would create a quantum leap? And then the other part of environments is also the environments that we hang out in, our friend circle. Because remember, there's the saying that says you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with most. I want to invite you to do an audit of your environment. Are you hanging around people who are going to tell you, you'll never succeed? Stop being uppity. Like, who does she think she is when you try and dream a bigger dream, when you're dreaming more for yourself than the people around you are capable of dreaming for themselves? Your environment matters. What you surround yourself with and who you surround with matters. And it's a huge factor as well when it comes to feeding your fear. Because if you're around people who are going to tell you, oh, that'll never work. Oh, who do you think you are? Oh, so-and-so tried that and it didn't work for them. You're going to step back into the fear. So it's about looking at, does my environment support me in terms of my physical environment, but also does my environment support me in terms of the people that I'm surrounding myself with? And it's acknowledging, here's the thing about fear. It's acknowledging that fear will always be there. There will never be a time when you will completely be like, oh, I'm going to make this big leap and I'm going to step into this big life of mine and and not feel any fear. Anytime you're stepping outside of what you know, outside of what is familiar, outside of what is comfortable, you are going to feel fear. Period. Full stop. Accept that. Accept that fear is going to come along for the ride. There's a wonderful book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic. And in that book, Elizabeth Gilbert writes a letter to fear. And it's such a beautiful letter where she says, I acknowledge you're going to come with me. You're always going to be there. But I'm not going to let you drive. I'm going to let you sit in the passenger seat. And I'm going to let you say whatever it is that you've got to say. But I'm not going to let you drive my life. I'm not going to let you stop me from becoming all that I was meant to be. And so I want to invite you to think about that the next time that you feel fearful is, what do I need to do to overcome this fear? Not to say I'm not going to have any fear, but what do I need to do to overcome this fear? What do I need to do to identify the fear? What is the fear? What is it telling me? What is this fear telling me? Is it something that maybe I should look at being concerned about? Or is this just my imagination running wild? So number 1, identifying the fear. The second is create a plan and focus on your win. WIN. What's important now? What's the one thing that I can do today? What's the one step that I can take? And then the third thing is seeing time as your friend, working in small blocks of time. You don't need a whole weekend or a whole day to work on your dream. 10 minutes will move you forward much further than if you do nothing, or much further than if you wait until the time is perfect and you have the perfect time in your calendar. 10 minutes every day for you to dedicate to you being the best version of you. And then asking yourself, number 4, what are the habits that I can create? What are the ways of being that would support me in making this my best year yet? And then the 5th thing, looking at your environment, doing an audit of your environment. Is my environment geared towards helping me step into this new version of myself? And are the people that I'm surrounding with helping me step into the best version of me? Remember, fear is always going to be along for the ride, but it's what you choose to do with it. We'll go back to that quote that I shared from Sadhguru. For so many of us, we're living lives of fear, but they're all fears that are based on the past or our imagination of things that haven't happened and likely will never happen. I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for choosing to invest this time in yourself, in you stepping into being the greatest version of you. Because here's what I know for sure. You are worthy. All of those big hopes, all of those big dreams that you have for yourself, you are worthy. You are worthy of creating an extraordinary life. You are worthy to be. You are worthy to do. You are worthy to have anything and everything your heart desires.